So, tricking. I also asked everybody about tricking, and this shit was more hilarious. They actually equated that to a man's, it's equivalent to a man's body count. So if a woman slept with like 50 dudes,
Mm.
and a man tricked off on 50 chicks, they all agree like, oh no, I'm not gonna fuck with no dude who's basically tricking off of four of the chicks, while they fucking with me. They all said, I was like, so it don't matter. So his body count don't matter. She was like, nah, but how he's spending his money because he could be spending that on me. And I'm like, so wait a minute, so he can't like have an OnlyFans subscription and that? No, they all said no. You can't. You basically that money. Your money is my money. Is basically what what they were saying.
Is it equivalent? If I trick on 3 chicks while I'm with you, would you still be with me? I'm still sleeping with you, but I'm still paying bills for these other chicks. Is that unattractive, or is it still a go?
Absolutely. I can't do that.
Oh, no tricks?
I have to be special. I'm have to be number one.
Oh,
Absolutely.
so I can't subscribe to OnlyFans or nothing like that? Everything got to be for you?
Yeah, because what makes me different?
That's pretty interesting. That is. So you don't matter how many people I fucked with, I went raw or not. But it matter on how many girls I took like on 5-star, dinner meals, how much rent I paid, how many cars that I paid and shit, and co-signed for. They tricking is a turnoff.
Right.
And yet these motherfuckers still do it. And you be trying to give them all the time about like, why the fuck are you guys doing this and that? And like that's why they, how many videos done came out about some dude whining about how much he spent on a dinner date, and he got the girl on film. I mean, the shit looks fake to me, but you see how much that shit has dropped. You spend bread on a chick, and that girl is already ready to dip, which is very interesting. Some of them just like, I don't mind getting taken out to eat, but a lot of these girls said, but that's not what we have to do. Like, we could get coffee and just chop it up. So I'm like, look, so Locario, where did the game go wrong when motherfuckers decided to like go to the dinner date first and trick off all the money?
Right. Why? Well, you know what it is? Tricking, I think a lot of times, like tricking technically is more so like I'm paying for sex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When guys are like spending a lot of money on dates and all that, that's more like a whining and dining type of environment, which is more like simping. You understand? So they're going overextending themselves. But the thing that people got to understand about tricking, of when guys are just like, strictly trying to pay for sex, or even simping for that matter. But I'll say just on the tricking thing, is that because they're closely related, but they're sort of different. Is that tricking isn't really about sex? Like guys think on the surface it seems that way. When a man is tricking, he's paying for sex and he's just paying basically to be with a woman. He's really paying for love. That's what he's paying for. He's paying to get the experience of a woman who gives a shit about him.
He's paying for attention.
That's what he's paying for. He's paying for the experience of having a woman care about him. And this is the crazy part. This is the crazy part. Is that on the surface it seems like just sex, right? But this is why you have so many guys who fly overseas to try to get with prostitutes in like Brazil and Dominican Republic and all these other places. And the main thing that, if you listen to these guys, the main thing that they say is they say, well, I like the way that the women overseas treat men. Like they're more submissive, they're nicer to you. You understand? They make you feel like a man. So they're paying for the experience to be with a woman who makes them feel like she cares and she respects him. Because if you go over to Brazil or any of these other countries, the women, the way that they come at the guys, even though the guys are paying, they're very, very accommodating, very submissive, very sweet. And so they're paying more for that than just the actual sex. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why they're paying for that is because most of these guys, they can't get to the point where they actually, get a girl who's showing them some sort of affection or love, because they don't have any game to get a girl, period. You understand? So that's the hard part about it. You see what I mean? But what they're really paying for is they're paying for a woman to give a shit about them. They're not just paying for sex, because sex within itself is like, it's the act of sex. It's very fleeting. It's not like anything that you that really fulfills you to that extent to where it's like, oh, you know, I need to do extra stuff to get this. Like when you're having sex, you do your thing, then you're busting out or whatever, you get your orgasm, and you understand what I'm saying?
You're on for your day. Yeah, you're good. You're done.
Right.
Call it a night.
And this is the thing, and what happens is that if you're the type of guy who is a player, right, and who's able to, like, you know, hook up with a bunch of girls and do all this other stuff, what most players understand is that 90% of the women that they fuck with, that they hook up with or whatever, don't give a shit about them. You understand? Meaning that the women that they're dealing with don't give a shit about them as a guy. They don't give a fuck about them. And what happens is that a lot of players understand this. And so what happens is that when a player gets with a woman or he gets a girl that he's feeling and he likes or whatever, sometimes what'll happen is that because she sees him as a player, she may not necessarily get with him. And then he feels a certain type of way because he's kind of hurt, because he's like, damn, I actually felt like a connection with this chick and I wanted to make something happen. So that same feeling of wanting to connect is the same feeling the guy who can't get girls also wants. But deep down, what he really wants is still a connection. You understand what I'm saying? This is why a lot of times where you'll have a guy who, you know, he's married or has a girlfriend, and he'll still run around and cheat and fuck around with all these girls. And people are like, well, why are you doing it? Why don't you just leave your girl? He doesn't want to leave his girl. Why? Because he has a connection with his girl. You understand what I'm saying?
We already have a foundation. Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They still want the home. This is where I you know, emotionally rest my head, is in this situation or these situations. You understand? And so what happens is that when it comes to tricking, you understand, and even simping, where guys are simping, they'll take a girl out on 3, 4, 5 dates, wine and dine her, do all this other stuff. There's, at the end of the day, they're still trying to get to, you know, like a deeper connection. You understand? This is why a lot of times you ever hear people say casual sex feels empty? The reason why it feels empty is because a lot of times people have casual sex in an attempt to get to a connection. But then when they have casual sex and the sex is over and they're like, that's it? Like, okay, I guess I just got to...
I've never heard of no shit like that, bro.
I'm telling you, that's what they say.
Nigga, that's uncanny. I ain't never heard no shit like that.
Yeah, they say that casual sex make them feel empty, or hooking up is empty and all this other stuff. And the reason why is because they're looking for connection through the hookup. And this is what the tricking is. They're getting a hookup, basically sex, the hookup, but what they're really looking for is connection through the hookup. You understand what I'm saying? At the end of the day.
You don't open another can of worms, but so you know, I'm glad you ain't saying this show on your channel, because you probably just confused a whole lot of dudes who are pretty much just trying to get casual sex. It's funny because Alan Roger Curry, shout out to him, he said his brother was like that. His brother hated having casual sex. And I'm over here just slamming my damn phone down like I'm confused because that didn't bother me. You know, I understand a lot of people have different reasons for settling down. You know, my reason for settling down, because let's see, I've been married for 8 years now, and then so I settled down at like 30, 34, 35. And the only reason why I did that, because shit was just getting a little bit too hot in the streets. Like when girls started catching STDs from other girls, that's when I was like, okay, it's time to park the fucking brakes. And just, you know, just find one, you know, that I'm satisfied with, which I did, you know, and built a family with and everything, you know. So I'm hearing somebody just say, I mean, casual sex is cool, but nigga, it feels empty right now. That to me, I don't want to say it's on some blue pill shit. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I'm unqualified to fathom what the hell that means, because I have no, I'm not gonna be one of those dudes that think they know everything, because there's a lot of dudes in the space you already know just that have a theory for everything. But that shit right there, I've never even heard of, where you could just had so much casual sex, which means pussy must just be handed to you, or you must be tricking off a lot to the point where you're just like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of casual sex. I'm gonna go find Jesus, or I'm gonna just go find one chick, you know?
See, that happens again because they don't just take the sex for what it is. See, casual sex and hooking up is very enjoyable if you just take it for what it is. Meaning, like, I'm not looking for anything outside of the act. Like, I'm not trying to get the act to be happy. I'm not trying to get the act to get hoping this girl's gonna be my girlfriend, or even women will do that. Be like, I'm hoping this guy will be my boyfriend if we have sex or whatever. If you just have sex for the act of sex, then you'll love casual sex and it'll be enjoyable. But the thing is that, the reason why people don't enjoy it is because they're having casual sex for ulterior motives. They're like, well, maybe if I hook up with this guy, he'll like me and want me to be his girlfriend, or vice versa. Guys like, well, if I hook up with this girl, and maybe I can, make something else happen with it. So they're looking for, so that when things don't pan out how they expected through the sex, then they're like, oh, this shit feel empty because you were doing it for other reasons besides just the sex. And so the thing is that a lot of people, they want to, because this is the thing, the act of sex is very short. Like they say that the average sex session is like 9 minutes or some shit.
Yeah, especially when you're married. That's
right. You know what I'm saying? So most of the time, if you're dealing with somebody, it's on a basis where it's non-sexual. You know what I mean? So you're gonna want to, like, if you actually like a person and want to engage with that person and like enjoy certain experiences and do certain things, you want to have some sort of connection there to where you're like, okay, well, I actually give a fuck about this person. And so that's the thing where it's funny because and this also makes me think about a lot of times when people are so hung up on the act of sex, or just thinking about sex within itself, because what happens is that in the grand scheme of things, the sex is just an activity. A lot of people like to put like extras on it, like, oh my God, the soul ties and the energies and all of that.
Even soul tie, and I don't want that toxic stuff on me from other female inside of me.
Energy is very important.
Very important.
This is the funny part. Even though you're exchanging energy, which is true, you exchange energy with everything. I can have a conversation with you. We're exchanging energy right now, having a conversation. You understand?
Yeah, it's called vibing. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? You can exchange energy just by like standing near somebody. You understand what I'm saying? And just so anything could be exchanged in energy. But again, they make it a big deal because it's sex. As soon as it's sex, it's like, oh my goodness. And so what's funny is that people also look at it in a negative light, because they're like, oh, well, you're gonna take on their bad vibes. I'm like, well, wait a second. I have good vibes, so couldn't I pass on my good vibes to this person if we have sex? You know what I mean? Like, why does there have to be bad vibes? You see what
I've slept with women after dinner dates, but I guess a lot of these guys who y'all chopping it up with are not. But then again, seduction plays a part in it. The dinner date is like one of the most special things that you ever have. Like, that is like some really... Name a pimp who didn't take a girl out to eat. Name a pimp who never bought a girl a drink. Every like movie exploitation, whatever, even Iceberg Slim out here in the Bay, he talked about, he treats women out. There's nothing wrong with that, but damn, what are you doing wrong to the point where it's like, where's your sex appeal at? And apparently, from what you're telling me, a lot of people are actually having a lot of trouble developing, sex appeal, tone, eye contact, just shit showering and shaving and just looking good and just basically maintaining confidence.
Right.
What happened to where all that shit just completely left? We're in the age of social media and YouTube. How come motherfuckers still don't know how to just be like, why are motherfuckers so scared?